It's light, it's ergonomic, it's versatile, it looks nice, so why isn't it more popular? Hello everybody, hope you all are doing good out there. In this video we're going to be taking a look at a knife that I wish was more popular. And I really want y'all's opinions on this knife. It's a knife that kind of gets overlooked in the knife world, but it's a really good knife. First off, I'm going to talk about the knife itself, then I'm going to compare it to some cousins, then I'm going to compare it to some other knives that are bigger and smaller that are common and that people can relate to so they can get an idea of the size of the knife. And then I want to talk about a story about how I originally ran into the knife. So the knife that we're going to be looking at in this video is this knife right here. Now this is an 087 Stockman. Now as we know, Case makes a lot of different Stockman model knives. They've got round bolster, they got square bolster, they've got larger knives, they got smaller knives, all the way from the small 33 pattern, all the way up to the large 75 pattern. Case has no shortage of Stockmans, and that's for sure. But the 087 simply hasn't got enough attention. Now you can get the 087 in three different styles. The first style is the Stockman. Now the Stockman has a main clip blade, a secondary spade blade, and the third blade is this little pin blade. And the Stockman has two back springs with a liner down the middle, but the liner doesn't come all the way up through the handle, it's only on the back. The most popular form of the 087 is the jackknife version. Now the jackknife version is going to again have two back springs with a liner down the middle, but you're going to see that liner goes all the way up the knife. It's going to have the same main clip blade, as you can see. Same handle, but it's going to have, instead of 3 blades, it only has 2. And your secondary blade is going to be this long, skinny pin blade instead of this shorter, fatter pin blade like is on the Stockman. And being a jackknife, you know, both the blades are opening on the same end. So those are the two. This is the most popular version. This pin knife is. The Stockman isn't quite as popular. And in the other version out there that I'm aware of the 087 pattern, is this one right here. Now this one happens to be in mother of pearl, so it's a beautiful knife. But this right here is another 087 pattern. But this one, as you can see, is also a two-bladed knife. But you'll see that each blade opens on a different end. That makes this a pin knife. This is the 087 pin. Again, you're going to have your same main blade as the other two did. That clip point blade, and that's going to be the only blade that's common between these all three models. And then on the pin knife version, you're going to have your pin blade open up on the other end. And you'll see again, like the Stockman, the liner does not come all the way up. It's only on the sides. There is no middle liner on the pin knife, which makes it a little thinner. But again, you can see that its pin blade is a whole lot smaller than the pin blade on the jackknife version. And this is how it compares to the pin blade on the Stockman version. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's the same blade. These knives are quite a few years apart, but I believe that would be the same blade if they were both from the same year, because it looks very, very close. So those are the three common versions of the 087 pattern. And I find it interesting that the jackknife is the most popular. And when you find this jackknife, it's usually going to have these black synthetic handles on it. And it's got Case's stainless steel with the as-ground style blade. Now, if we look at width, the Stockman and the jackknife are basically the same width. But the pin knife is going to be a little thinner, because it doesn't have that center liner in there. The springs just touch each other. Also, on this particular version, this Stockman has a wider middle liner, which is kind of interesting. But as for years, these are not all the same year, so that might account for some of it. This one right here, the jackknife, is a 2004 model. The Stockman is a 2014 model. And the mother of pearl penknife is an 1995 model. So they're spaced out quite a bit in years. They're all just about 10 years apart from each other, so oldest heading to the newest. But these are the most common forms of the 087 pattern. But what I'm going to be talking about today is the Stockman version of it, because the Stockman version of it, in my opinion, is probably the best and the most versatile version of this knife. Now, the most common form that you're going to find it in is this one right here. This is from Case's Brown Jig Delrin series they call the Workman series. Now, this has been around for many years with Case, and it's a very strong and sturdy handle. And if you're looking for a knife to take with you and to really use, this is an absolutely great option. You got this brown colored Delrin, and this stuff is very strong. The worst you'll ever see happen to it is a crack from the pin to the liner. And even when that happens, the handle doesn't break off or anything. It just has a little crack. It's purely cosmetic. So that's one big plus about this. You'll notice it's, again, being a Stockman, you've got your 3 blades. This knife is identical to this knife. It's just an more simpler, more work-inspired version of it. This particular knife is from the year 2000. But you'll notice that it's got stainless steel and it's got the as-ground blade. That is the same kind of blade finish that we had on our jackknife there. But it's going to have these as-ground finished stainless steel blades, and you're going to have the same blades that you saw on the Stockman. But this is the most popular version of this knife. I traded a slimline trapper for this knife a while back. But it's a pretty interesting knife. But I like it, but it's not my favorite. And the reason is I do not like the as-ground finished blades or the satin blades as well as I like the carbon blades or the high-polished stainless. I don't know why, it's just kind of a preference. I know it's a great finish, and I know a lot of people prefer it, but I just seem to like the simpler, high-polished finish a little better. And so that leads us to the story of how I come across this particular red knife. I was, the first 087 Stockman that I saw that wasn't the brown version. I was at a pawn shop, and there was somebody there. We were talking about knives, and he said, "This is the knife I carry." And he reached in his pocket and he pulled out an 087 bone-handled Stockman knife. Now his was like a bluish-greenish color, and it had a unique badge on it. I think it had a pewter badge, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe it said Case and Sons on it. But it was pretty neat looking. And he said somebody had given it to him, and so he carried it. And so I looked at that one, and I thought it was pretty nice. And I decided when I saw that I was going to keep an eye out for a bone 087 pattern. Well, months later, maybe 5-6 months later, maybe more, I had went to a pawn shop, same pawn shop as a matter of fact, and when I looked in the case, he'd got in some new knives, and this knife was laying right there. I very carefully turned it over to see the price on it, because I was hoping it wasn't too high and he had a good price on it. And when I saw the price on it, I thought, well, I'm getting it if it's in good shape. And when I opened up the blades, I saw that it was CV steel. And when I saw that it was CV steel, that was that. That was also the same day I made a bundle with this and the first Leatherman I ever bought, the Leatherman Wave. But that's how I picked up this particular knife. It had a lot of black something or another, like goo of some sort, all around jigging here around this case shield. And it took me a long time to scrape all that out. But after I scraped that out, I highly polished this bone, and this bone is, the camera's not doing it justice. The bone is absolutely beautiful. Now, there are 2 different kinds of red bone from Case that sometimes gets confused. Of course, Case has many more different kinds of red bone than just 2, but the 2 that tend to get confused with each other is what they call their dark red CV, which was this right here. And you can tell it by two ways. First off, it's usually going to have carbon steel blades, and second off, it's going to have a peach seed jig. Now, the newer cases like this, they put a different shield on, so it's easy to tell. But this often gets confused with cases red pocket worn finish, which is this right here. And this one is characterized by stainless steel blades, and it has a corn cob jig instead of a peach seed jig. And so the pattern's a little different, and the steel's a little different, and the color is a little bit darker. Most of them are a little darker than this particular peanut, but that is one thing to keep in mind when you see a knife. I have a few of these different dark red pocket worns. I only have one of these dark red CV knives, and this is it. Now the 087 is a pattern, especially the 087 Stockman, is a pattern that I wish would get more attention. There's a few things that make it a great knife. The first one is going to be the weight. It's only 1.80 ounces. Now that's important to keep in mind because that's lightweight for a Stockman. And this knife feels so light in the hand, and that makes it a good knife to use. It's light in the pocket and light in the hand. That makes it a good knife for a lot of people to carry, especially if they're working in an office or something along those lines. This is a great knife. The other thing to keep in mind is the round bolsters. And not only the round bolsters, but the whole serpentine-like shape of this knife. There is no sharp points on this knife, and this knife is extremely comfortable to hold. It's comfortable in the pocket. It's comfortable in the hand. It has no hot spots anywhere. It's extremely comfortable in any position you hold it in, whether you're cutting away from you, cutting sideways, cutting towards you, whether you've got it in your pocket, whether you've got it in your hand. It's an extremely comfortable knife, and that makes it a good knife. The other thing that makes this such a great knife, in my opinion, is going to be the versatility of the three blades. Now, you've got your clip blade, and that is a very nice clip blade. As you can see, the sharpened edge is about 2 1/4 inches or so. So you get plenty of blade edge. And it's got just a nice shape to it. I love the shape of the blade. The blade is more or less square. You got a lot of points and so on, where the handle is more or less round. And it's a nice contrast, not to mention it feels excellent in the hand. Your secondary blade is a totally different blade. It is a spade blade. But this spade blade is unique because it's got an extreme hollow grind on it, which makes it slice very, very nicely. The other thing is it's not too thick. The blade stock stays about the same thickness all the way down, all the way to the tip. And the tip of it itself has a good shape to it, and it cuts better, it pierces better, I guess I should say, than most spade blades. And if you're doing something where you're actually cutting down on a surface, because of the angle of that edge, it does a really good job at that. And because of the length of that particular blade, you can extend your finger as a depth gauge, and it'll cut into boxes really nicely. And then your third blade is going to be this little pin blade. You can see this one has a spotty patina on it. It's got patina on it when I've been eating, like cutting up a potato or an onion or eating a peach or something with one of the other blades. It's kind of come down and got on that blade. But this little pin blade, well, we all know how versatile and good pin blades are. They're just excellent little blades. And you can see the big mark for CV on there. And again, if you go out and buy any of these new dark red bone case knives, they're going to say CS instead of CV, and they're going to have a different shield than this particular one has right here. But those are some reasons why I think the 087 is a knife that people shouldn't be missing all the time. It doesn't get enough attention. It's a great little pocket knife. Now, I want to compare it to a few other knives to kind of give us an idea of where it falls in the case lineup. We'll begin with the fellow Stockmans. The Stockman that it's closest to is going to be the 44 pattern Stockman. Now, the 44 pattern Stockman distinguishes itself in two main ways from the 087. The first is that it's a square bolster Stockman, and the second is that it doesn't have a spade blade, it has a sheep's foot blade instead. This is your blade here that's going to be different. It's got this nice fat sheep's foot blade, and I really like this little blade. When you compare these two together, you're going to realize that they're very, very similar knives. The clip blades, if you look at the cutting edge itself, they are basically identical. There is really no difference whatsoever. Same thing with the handle length. The 087 is very slightly longer, but not enough to really make a difference. It is a little wider though, and that width can make a difference, and you may notice that. Now when I'm talking about width, I'm meaning from this edge of the bone to the back spring. Now this is the main blade that's different on these two knives. And this is the biggest thing that I can say against the 087, is when I get a Stockman, I really want a sheep's foot blade, and the 087 doesn't have one. So that's one of the things that makes me maybe push toward one of the other Stockmans. And then the last blade is going to be the pin blade, and they are more or less, again, the blade edge itself is more or less identical. Now one place where where something is a little different between these two is the closed width from the back spring. The 44 pattern is a little wider than the 087. It's kind of hard to see it here on camera. But that's the 44 and the 087. Those two are Stockmans that are competitors to each other in the case lineup. The next one's going to be probably the most common case Stockman, which is the 18 pattern Stockman. And the 18 pattern Stockman is one of my favorites. But I was thinking to myself, these more or less have the same shape. Why would somebody get the 087 over the 18 pattern? And the answer is weight. The 087 weighs a lot less. This knife is around 2.35 ounces. This one's only 1.80 ounces. We've said before in these videos that the 18 pattern Stockman is built very heavy, and that is completely true with this one right here. It's built very heavy. And you can see, you're not gaining too awful much blade length on the 18 pattern, although you are getting a bigger handle coming in at 3 5/8 inches. But the thing I love about the 18 pattern Stockman, along with most people who are going to carry it again, is going to be the sheep's foot blade. And again, you're not going to get that sheep's foot blade on the 087 pattern. But if you don't have to have a sheep's foot blade, if you'll be content with a spade blade and a pin blade, the 087 pattern is an excellent option. The last Stockman we'll compare it to is the 47 pattern. The 47 pattern is the next biggest jump, and honestly, these two knives don't really compare to each other than the way they look. These knives look very similar. Their designs almost are identical from each other. The way the handle's shaped, the way the blades are shaped. But again, you're going to have that one big difference, that the 47 pattern, again, is going to have a sheep's foot blade and a spade blade instead of a spade blade and a pin blade. But that's how those two compare. And so to finish out this video, I'm going to throw in a few other popular case knives just so we can get an idea of the size. I'll do it comparing the main blades. Here's a full-size 54 pattern case trapper. Here is a case 37 pattern Sodbuster Jr. And here is a case 20 pattern Peanut. I'm also going to put the 18 pattern back in here again for comparison's sake. But that's kind of how this knife stacks up, or along with the other Stockmans and the other popular knives in cases lineup. So it's a good knife in the lineup, and it's a knife that I wish got more attention. And I'm curious about y'all's experience with the 087 pattern. How important is that sheep's foot blade for you? Would you go on out there and buy the 087 in spite of the fact that it doesn't have a sheep's foot? Or would the fact that it doesn't have a sheep's foot drive you to buy the 44 pattern or the 18 pattern instead? I find that an interesting question. There's a lot of benefits to the 087. You got weight, you got size, you got, it's just a great knife, is all there is to it. And so I'm curious, y'all comment down below how you feel about the 087 pattern Stockman and why you think it gets overlooked, and maybe you would have chose the jackknife or the pen knife over it. Thank you all for watching. You have a good day and keep your knives sharp.